We are in western Washington state where BNSF freight traffic mixes with Sounder commuter trains, Amtrak Talgo trains, the Empire Builder, and the Rocky Mountaineer. Add a few tugs, ferries, and ocean-going vessels, and you have BNSF Scenic Subdivision along Washington's beautiful Puget Sound. The early light of dawn reveals the starting point for today's journey along the Puget Sound. Home to tech giants such as Amazon and Microsoft, Seattle is the 15th largest city in the United States. Located roughly 100 miles south of the Canadian border, Seattle is a major gateway for trade with Asia, boasting the 4th largest container port in North America. Incorporated in 1869 along the shore of Elliott Bay, Seattle grew with the timber boom, then later the Klondike Gold Rush. It benefited from the shipbuilding boom of the early 20th century, which peaked during World War I. Railroad east of Pier 86 is the former Great Northern Interbay Yard. Renamed Balmer Yard in the late 1960s, the 80-acre facility includes a 16-track mini hump with over 41 tracks for switching. These Boeing 737 fuselages came into Seattle from Kansas via Stevens Pass and will soon be delivered to Boeing at Renton, just south of Seattle, for final assembly. A pair of EMD SD75Ms shuffle toward the east end of the yard, where we find the car shop and former Great Northern Locomotive Service Facility, which is still referred to by railroaders as Interbay. A holdover from the steam days, the classic 1920s-era turntable and roundhouse still exist between Gilman Avenue and West Emerson. After leaving Interbay, the Scenic Subdivision crosses the Lake Washington Ship Canal via the Salmon Bay Bridge, known as Bridge 6.3 on the timetable. This waterway is a division point between the Ballard and Magnolia districts of Seattle and is quite busy with marine traffic, especially during the summer months. The double-track lift bridge was built by the Great Northern in 1914 and has an opening span of 200 feet. This allows large marine vessels and sailboats with tall masts access to the nearby Ballard locks. The busy ship canal gives the 100-year-old lift bridge a good workout every day. The hut for the bridge tender is located on the north side of the lift span. A massive counterweight balances the span during movement, allowing the bridge to be raised and lowered quickly, while using very little energy. With the span locked in the down position, a westbound oil train led by BNSF 6829 enters Seattle's industrial district. CSX 3465, a General Electric ET44AH, operates by remote control on the rear of the oil cans as the unit train rolls into Balmer Yard. Between Ballard and Everett, the Scenic Subdivision traces the shoreline of Puget Sound, offering many fantastic views along the way. BNSF 4136 West leads an intermodal train consisting mainly of domestic containers and Boeing 737 fuselages past Carkeek Park at milepost 10. Returning in mid-October to Carkeek Park, a blanket of fog covers the water and surrounding lowlands. An evening sounder commuter train heads for Everett on Main 1. "30 minutes later, another sounder follows suit in push mode. Between the commuter trains, a high-priority Z led by BNSF 5421 heads eastbound on Main 2. From a small beach near Piper's Creek, a third sounder takes passengers between Seattle and Everett. The pedestrian footbridge at Carkeek Park is a great location for photographing trains in either direction. This time we use it to frame Amtrak 8, the eastbound Seattle section of the Empire Builder. As the train slowly fades into the fog, the sound of other prime movers fills the air. An unseen tug tows a barge north, alerting other ships to its presence with a long horn blast every 2 minutes. The ambience of evening on Puget Sound. BNSF 6903 appears from the south and leads a crude oil train toward Cherry Point. In the October twilight, the tug and its tow are finally revealed in the receding fog. The blast of its horn is seemingly answered by a distant train. Waves pound the shore at Richmond Beach, milepost 14 on the Scenic Subdivision. Coal trains from the Powder River Basin in Wyoming and Montana are a common appearance, hauling black diamonds to Roberts Bank, BC for export. Loaded trains head north, while empties return south. SD70 ACE number 9007 and two GE-9s bring the train to a slow crawl near the end of double track at milepost 16 in a meet with a westbound stack train. With the coal train out of the way, BNSF 6587 West passes the house tracks at Richmond Beach. Containers by the hundreds roll through Richmond Beach each day by rail. Many of them pass a second time on large container ships sailing to and from the Orient. The shipping lanes of the Pacific Ocean are accessed from Puget Sound via the Strait of Juan de Fuca and the Strait of Georgia, providing an inland route to ports from Vancouver, BC to Tacoma, Washington. Much gentler than the waters of the Pacific coast, the Sound offers safe travel for large and small craft alike. Ferries are a common sight on Puget Sound, and many residents rely on them for daily transportation and goods. The Kingston to Edmonds ferry disappears behind the seawall at Richmond Beach as a northbound sounder follows the scenic shoreline. Puget Sound is known for its sunsets, and on this smoky evening in late July, we are not disappointed. The next morning, a marine layer covers the sky as we move railroad east to Point Wells between Richmond Beach and Edmonds. Amtrak 7, the westbound Empire Builder, heads for Seattle after splitting with the Portland section of the train at Spokane in eastern Washington. On a summer afternoon in Edmonds, one can enjoy the ever-present traffic on Puget Sound. The city has 5 miles of shoreline opposite the Kitsap Peninsula. A state-run ferry system connects Edmonds with the peninsula at Kingston, allowing both commuters and commerce access to the mainland. The transportation center of Edmonds is the train station, located right behind the ferry terminal. Amtrak 104 North approaches the station. Late in the afternoon, a BNSF officer special heads for Everett. Running one by one, this train is making a short commute from Balmer Yard to Everett and back, and we will see it again on its return trip. In the meantime, there is a lot to see from our location at milepost 18. More containers slowly make their way south to either Seattle or Tacoma, while a tug tows a pair of barges en route to Alaska. Farther to the north, a barge of wood chips is heading south of Everett. Back on the rails, a different-looking train is heading our way, Canada's Rocky Mountaineer. This train is known for its spectacular daylight runs through the Canadian Rockies, and we have shot it on numerous occasions in British Columbia and western Alberta. A few years ago, the Mountaineer began service to Seattle, Washington as part of its coastal package route, giving people in the States direct access to the spectacular scenery of Western Canada by rail. Edmonds is a busy place today, with the BNSF dispatcher having to make several meets due to the section of single track between here and Richmond Beach. Today's Rocky Mountaineer is led by RMRX 8011, an EMD GP40-2LW built in 1975. The W designates the Canadian Comfort Cab, while the L indicates it is equipped with a lighter, taller frame than a standard GP40-2. Like the trailing unit, number 8016, which is actually a GP40-2R. The red signal gives us a chance to admire the consist. The Mountaineer is a seasonal train running between April and October, with Saturday visits to Seattle between mid-May and September. BNSF 7815 East appears with a stacked train of overseas containers. With the stacked train out of the way, the Mountaineer continues to Seattle. We will catch it again later on. Sunset Beach is popular with local residents of Edmonds and a great place to view trains in action. A westbound oil train stopped short of milepost 18 for Amtrak 518, running between Portland and Vancouver, BC. A few miles behind the oil cans, a westbound stacker approaches Edmonds and meets the Talgo train. In the distance, the Whidbey Island Ferry can be seen approaching Mukilteo, while a headlight gives away our next westbound. The BNSF's Officer Special is making its return trip now to Seattle. It's high tide as the golden rays of the evening sun bathe the sound in rich summer light. The ferry from Kingston on the Kitsap Peninsula eases toward the dock at Edmonds, while the Olympic Mountains rise in the background. Just before sunset, BNSF 3929 West gets a light and departs with a stack train. The third unit, CSX 7661, is a C40-8W built in May of 1991. Before moving on, we hang around to find out just why it is named Sunset Beach. Continuing up the shore of Puget Sound, a low tide at Mukilteo reveals an interesting rock formation that closely resembles a drawbar, lying 100 feet from the tracks. The Seattle and Montana Railroad, later the Great Northern, laid rail through here in 1891, connecting it with Everett and Seattle. Commuter traffic between those cities still continues today with Amtrak Cascades and Sounders. The tide rolls in, reclaiming the unfortunate drawbar for another 12 hours. Mukilteo serves as a major terminal for the Washington State Ferry system, linking nearby Whidbey Island with the mainland. Washington maintains the largest fleet of ferries in the U.S., with currently 23 vessels carrying over 24 million passengers annually. In 1906, the Federal Lighthouse Service built the iconic Mukilteo Lighthouse to serve increased maritime traffic in Possession Sound. It is constructed of wood with a fixed lens that has been in use since 1927. Turn down the lights and add some fog, and you can really see it in operation. A budget of $22,000 was approved for the lighthouse by Congress in 1902. A huge sum of money at the time, but deemed necessary to make the waterways safe and profitable. It apparently was a good idea, since there are no known stories of shipwrecks in the Mukilteo area. During our October visit, thick fog formed at night and lingered through the morning hours. The Whidbey Island ferries appeared as ghosts on the water, invisible only a short distance from land. Standing in the darkness near the seawall, the vessels are an incredible sight as they suddenly appear at the dock. In 2001, the U.S. Coast Guard gave ownership of the lighthouse to the city, which in turn opened the grounds to the public by creating a park. It is open year-round if you wish to stop by for a visit. The Mukilteo train station is located just a short distance from the Lighthouse Park and serves several commuter trains daily. The skybox rail cars on the far track carry aircraft parts for a nearby Boeing plant. After leaving the station, Amtrak 105 passes Japanese Gulch as it heads for its final stop of Everett, just a few miles away. Japanese Gulch is named for Japanese mill workers who once lived here in company housing. Later, this site was used as a defense position to protect the Bremerton shipyard and nearby Boeing aircraft factory during World War II. This rail dock is used to load extra-large aircraft parts from ships. On the other side of the dock, the city of Everett comes into view. BNSF 505 West slowly approaches on Main 2 in a meet with an eastbound. Everett sits on the shore of Possession Sound, part of the greater Puget Sound. It is home to Naval Station Everett since 1994, and the city's roots go back to the timber industry. From an overlook, the evening Amtrak 517 appears around a point near Japanese Gulch as it sprints north in the late afternoon. The Everett waterfront comes into view just west of the crossovers at Howarth Park, milepost 31. BNSF 8536 East leads a manifest into town. This train will be leaving the Scenic Subdivision at Everett Junction, milepost 32.2, and entering the Bellingham Sub as it continues north through Washington's Puget Sound. It is a line that leads to the Canadian border at Blaine, but we will save that for another time. You have been watching part of our 2-hour presentation titled Along Puget Sound. It is available on DVD, HD Blu-ray, and digital download with Vimeo on demand. Visit 7ideaproductions.com for all the details. There is a link in the description below. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe to watch more programs like this added weekly. From all of us at 7 Idea Productions, thanks for watching.